Hello, it's the International Week. I'm Kristian Walsh and I'm sitting here with Dan Morgan. We have no idea what to talk about, Dan, so what we decided to do, because it's 12 games in, we're pretty much a third of the way through the campaign, and in case anybody's been living under a rock, Liverpool are 8 points clear at the top of the Premier League, 11 wins, 1 draw from 12 games. So we're going to have a look at basically the Liverpool squad and we're going to try and rank them.
Right.
Now, full disclosure here, I've sort of dropped this on your toes at the very, very last minute. So what I've done is laid in bed last night and looked at the 20 Liverpool players who have played a minute or more in the Premier League this season. However, it will also take into consideration the Champions League and the entire campaign. The reason I've done this is because Harvey Elliott would have been top and it would have been pointless, this whole exercise. So we discount the likes of Harvey Elliott, we discount the likes of Kiana Hoover and Ryan Brewster. So we're just going for the players who've made a senior minutes appearance so far this season in the Premier League.
So basically what Chris is saying is, while he's working me into the ground on Liverpool.com, which is very good, by the way, and you should check it out, he gets to lie in bed and think of wonderful projects like this, and then drag me off my written work again today, which I've had no time to prepare for, and ask me my opinion on them. So Chris has his list of the top players that he's ranked in the Liverpool squad. I, meanwhile, haven't had a chance to even think about it. So that's how this is going to go. Chris is going to give us his list, and I'm going to argue the case, yes or no, for who he's got where.
Yeah, and I also think you probably need to join the union because you sound like a very disgruntled employee at the minute, Dan.
I'm really happy at Liverpool.com. I'd just like to add, it's a fantastic place to work and we're doing some great work, so please check it out.
Blink twice if you're lying. Right, okay, we will start then with 20. If we'll rattle through, to be fair, at the very bottom. Number 20 for me, Xherdan Shaqiri.
Yeah, I think is... I mean, I don't like to jump in two-footed with these types of statements, but I think his Liverpool career is looking more ominous by the day, isn't it? His injury at the start was mooted as being, just a knock that might keep him out for a game, and we haven't seen him for the best part of a month, 6 weeks. But also, when we're playing this 4-3-3 shape, he's clearly not trusted at all, is he? And the run of games that got him in the side last season, I just can't see where it's coming for him. So it's all looking very ominous for the Shaq.
Yeah, I worry about him in January, to be honest.
Yeah,
you just wonder. You do just wonder. Number 19. Okay, so this might be the first little bone of contention. I've gone for Naby Keita. I just don't really see what he could do really to be above anybody else so far this season. He's had a couple of nice little cameos recently, but obviously everybody made a big deal, myself included, about that pass to Robertson at Old Trafford, and he did change the game in that game, to be fair. But for me, there's nobody else who could be potentially below him. No,
I mean, it's frustrating with Naby, isn't it? Because, he has those cameos and then it's his next start that almost lets him down. It's like, okay, you kick on from there, and thought he was fine against Genk away, but he's one of those players for me. I think a lot of people said around the Arsenal game in the AFL Cup, Keita will run the show because he's clearly a supreme player, clearly supreme talent. He'll absolutely run the game. Watch him, and he struggled. And I think it was a little bit unfair on him in the sense that, well, we don't know what his perfect game is. His perfect game might be him surrounded with the first team, with the players who are playing every week. That's where he might feel more comfortable, not with, for want of a better phrase, a load of kids and an AFL Cup night against a good Arsenal side, which they were. So I think it's the run of games thing with him. I don't see where he gets the run of 5 games that he probably needs, and it's all a little bit stop-start, so I'll agree with that, to be fair.
Yeah, and I'm also just a little bit... I just wonder sometimes if the Liverpool that signed Naby Keita for a year's time in 2017 is just a bit of a different Liverpool than what we see now. You wonder what
the Leipzig Naby Keita could have done in the 17-18 Liverpool side. When his description was almost a parallel to what Liverpool were in that season. The attack and the chaos, all of that. If he'd have come over and hit the ground running in that season, things might have all worked out different. But I've written a lot of pieces lately on sliding doors moments and how things have correlated for Liverpool. So I mean, it's all there for him still, but he's got a bit to do.
Okay, number 18, Adam Lallana. He ultimately gets above Keita because I thought he was quite good against Aston Villa and he scored at Old Trafford.
Yeah, absolutely. Tons of professionalism from Lallana, what I've liked, and I think he's more mature than people give him credit for. You know, I think some people still see him as this 26-year-old, fleet-footed lad who's not really. For some reason, he's got this perception about him that he's not really committed, or he's not really, you know. Some people have this reputation based on purely nothing but their injury record, something that they can't help. I think Sturridge had the same, and I think LALLANA had a bit of that. But the maturity he shows and the way in which he's committed to this Liverpool cause, I think it's something Klopp's done really well with the whole squad. You know, you see how the whole squad reacts after Madrid. You know, people who've only played one game in that run to the Champions League success, but they feel a part of it, and I think he's done that really well, and it's embodied a lot by LALLANA, I think.
Okay, it gets a little bit more difficult from here on in. So number 17, James Milner. I've put Milner here. You're not happy with this. I've just put it because it just feels like he's still trying to reach the level that he reached last season. It feels like he hasn't really had much of an impact. He's been very important off the bench, but it just feels like there's no real tangible proof of him, you know, sort of being the midfielder that he was last season. He puts on that ball for Mane in the win against Leicester, but aside from that, I just can't. I think it's also to stop right here and just say, just because James Milner's 17th doesn't mean I'm saying he's a bad player. This is all absolutely relative. You know, this is all absolutely relative. It's just that Liverpool obviously are top of the Champions League group, top of the Premier League, into the quarterfinals of the EFL Cup. It's naturally going to, you know, once you get to this, it's just naturally going to be a little bit tough to rank them. Of
course, yeah. Look, my argument would be that I think he's had a better 90 minutes in that Leicester game than someone like Ox or Divock, who probably hasn't even had 90 minutes. And I think that, you know, the impact of him in that game just shows how important he is to the club and the team and the squad. And I think that even if you look at something like the MK Dons win, where he leads that group through that 90 minutes at left back, I'd just have him higher, because if you've got someone, like, I'm just looking at the corner of my eye at the list, if you've got someone like Joel Matip further up, fair enough, but he's been injured, and the thing that you can't take away from Milner is he's always there. You know, he's the first sub, or when he is playing, he never lets you down. And the only way in which the only bad performance I can think of is actually Sunday, and I'm not sure that was his fault. I think the sub was wrong in that it was probably, if he was coming on, he needed to come on to shut down that right side of City, or you bring Oxlade-Chamberlain on first to make them go the other way. But it was the right side that was the problem, and we just shunted them out left, and I didn't really get it. So that weren't necessarily his fault. I think Klopp got away with one a little bit, but yeah, I'd have him a little bit higher, to be honest. Maybe a bit of recency bias then from yours truly. We'll go through, you know, sort of a couple of players at a time. Oxlade-Chamberlain and then Alisson. Yeah, fine with that. Ox is really refreshing in that I think he's a really honest lad. And I remember when he joined Liverpool, you know, we had that interview with one of the broadsheets, and he talked about the way in which he pushes himself, and it was one of the first things that jumped out at me. And I think he's been honest in terms of he's not really where he wants to be yet, and I think that's a good thing. Even though he's putting pressure on himself, then yeah, I completely agree with that. Alisson the same. You see how important he is, but it's hard to judge him at the minute, isn't it? Yeah, because the injuries took him away from him. He hasn't kept a clean sheet yet, but he's done nothing wrong. No, and he looks like his injury hasn't affected him, is the other thing. And he'll come back and he'll probably contribute to a load of clean sheets going forward. But I think that we can't rate him any higher based on the injury. So yeah, I was tempted to put him number one just for those wonderful leggings that he was wearing. I mean, he somehow manages to make them look, you know, masculating and stylish and everything else. Yeah, £5 from Sports Direct. Okay, here's one that we've already been talking about this on the way to the studio, so I know that you're not going to be happy with this. But next up is Jordan Henderson. Yeah, it's a similar thing to Milner, Chris. The leadership qualities is why I would rate them higher. I think sometimes with this, I'm guilty of just going, how have they performed over 90 minutes with the football at the feet? Or I think that the things that Henderson and Milner give you are so pivotal to this squad, and I think their importance is just why I'd have them a little bit higher. I think Henderson's dipped in and out of games. I think he's had periods of the season, okay, probably no more than we're under 20 games, of course, but I think there's there's a thing with Henderson and Wijnaldum maybe where you can go, well, he's performed bad for 2 games, performed all right for 3, performed well for 2. I think him and Wijnaldum could do with, you know, they do so much for the team, but just having a run of 3 games where they're absolutely brilliant for everyone to just settle down a bit with them, because there's still those people who are saying, play Naby Keita and OXLADE Chamberlain in the midfield, and you don't get anything near what you do with Henderson and Wijnaldum. But it's just a leadership thing that would put them higher for me, but completely see why you've done it.
It's just because I feel like he hasn't. I think he was a breath of fresh air when he went into the number 8 position at the end of last season. I think it really helped Liverpool freshen up their attack. I think it really contributed to the way they finished the season. I think it was giving opponents something that they didn't really know. I'm just not seeing it on the front foot at the minute. The creativity obviously sets up the goal for Mane, and it's a brilliant cross against Manchester City, and he's actually creating more this season, you know, per 90 minutes than he was last season. It's just a little bit, sometimes when you're looking for a bit more of a spark from that area, he's not giving it.
He's also defending more. That's the thing.
Fair.
You know, and I wrote something on that last month, didn't I? And that, you know, Fabinho's being more creative this season, quietly. Henderson's actually defending more the further up he's playing up the pitch. Now, we know how much they facilitate not only the players around them, but, you know, the fullbacks as attacking outlets, for example. Jose Mourinho called Liverpool a puzzle on Sunday after the game against City, and the first 2 players he cited were Henderson and Wijnaldum. He said because they almost give you an extra body on the pitch, and it's just a puzzle you can't solve. And I think the work they do is off the ball and off the pitch, and it all falls into that leadership bracket. But I think it's phenomenal. But, you know, very diplomatic here. I'll not push the case too much. I can see exactly why you put him where he is.
Okay, so we will go on. I'll cluster a couple of these together again. Lovren, Origi, Adrian.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Dejan obviously gets a bit of bad press, no matter what he's doing.
I think he's been fine since he came in, even in the Leicester game. Yeah. You know, he got pelters, but I thought he defended against Jamie Vardy has scored in pretty much every Premier League game this season. He didn't get a sniff.
No, and I think what's present for me is that you always see, whenever it's Lovren and Alexander-Arnold in the team, that is the area in which oppositions target. You know, they will look at that as their way home. So he's got more to do in many ways, but I think he's been fine. Divock is Divock. He's a curate's egg of a footballer. He's just his own entity in many ways.
I just put him that high up because I feel like he's doing more than what he's doing last season. Well, he's doing an inverse, if that makes sense. Last season he was coming on not doing very much, but scoring really important goals. This season he's not necessarily bringing the goals from the bench in the same way that he did against, for example, you know, Newcastle or Everton, of course, but he's just making a bit more of a tangible impact, and he's helping Liverpool change the shape a little bit, and he's actually exceeded my expectations as that sort of first attacking sub.
Yeah, absolutely. Adrian, I absolutely love because he gets Liverpool, and he's clearly having a lovely time being at Liverpool Football Club, somewhere he never anticipated he could be at this point. So yeah, I think, and he's performed really well, to be fair. I'm disappointed, to be honest, he didn't get the Arsenal game. I get the Kelleher argument, but there should be a real drive now to get him on the pitch as much as we can. I don't know, I was thinking about this morning. If we win the league, how many league games has he got?
I should know this because I've been doing all. I think he's got 5 or 6.
Has he? That'd be
but I don't know. Does that rule exist anymore? I think it's just there's 35 medals and you give it to whoever you want.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
I think we're in line for one.
I'd enjoy that. Yeah. I was worried about Robbie Keane possibly getting one if we won it.
Robbie Keane. Who else? Can we just give Gerrard one?
Yeah,
just give Gerrard one. Yeah, if we won the league, if Liverpool won the league, we'd just give Gerrard a
get him a picture on his Instagram with it.
Yeah, with a bit of a Angel Revive next to it. That'd be absolutely fantastic. Just get him back as the under-18s assistant for the game. Yeah, there we go. Gerrard has won the league at Liverpool. Now stop it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go next with, again, we'll do these in a little bit of, well, I'll tell you what, we'll go with Matip first. I struggled a little bit with Joel Matip because I think he was absolutely brilliant. I think he was probably on par with Virgil van Dijk until he got injured, but then the injury comes and it's just a little bit hard to put him any higher.
Yeah, it's, you know what, we talked about Lovren before, but the way in which you see this side almost missing Matip down that right side now is night and day. You know, you would never expect to describe a player of that ilk is someone who's had such a profound effect on the first 11. But he seems to bring something now in terms of organisation, in terms of carrying the ball, in terms of out-and-out defending. So yeah, I agree. It's a shame he got injured because I have been worried about his injury record since he come to the club, and even since he got back into the side last February. You're waiting for it to happen, kind of thing. You know, he has a niggle. He's the type of player who has a niggle and it keeps him out for a month. You know what I mean? He has a cold for 6 weeks. I'm not being detrimental to him or loving there, but they are those types of players who they just can't seem to shake injuries very well, and I hope he comes back quicker than anticipated. Okay,
so here's one that's gonna probably cause a little bit of consternation. If you're watching this on YouTube, this is available both on YouTube and as a podcast. If you're watching it on YouTube, try and rise above it and leave a good YouTube comment. If it's on your
nice
podcast, yeah, be nice. If it's on podcast, please just do tweet Dan. So next up is, well, this is my list. So next up is Mohamed Salah.
Yeah, so I have a thing with this, that the only thing I've thought of coming into this is we have to be careful because the expectations we now set for these players are greater than any Liverpool side I've ever watched. Virgil van Dijk's a really good example in that you might have him 6th on your list or whatever, but he's actually still performing as probably the best centre-half in Europe. But in the context of this Liverpool team this season, what's getting brought to the table is that other people are performing better in terms of what they're giving to the team. So I can't really disagree in that Mo's really important, and I think statistically he's had his best ever start of the season in terms of goals and assists, I'm not sure, or ratio to goals to assists over the games he's played.
He does have some fantastic performances. That goal against Arsenal is already forgotten about, but he absolutely leaves for dead.
Absolutely, but this is the thing with me. He's a player in moments. I've never actually come out of Anfield and gone, he has absolutely bossed that game from minute 1 to 90. But he doesn't have to. And this manager, I don't think, wants him to. And I think he's a player who is comfortable not to. Don't get me wrong, I think the Burnley stuff did affect him a little bit. Because I think that he's always been trusted in this Liverpool side to act on his instinct. And that hasn't come off, and he's had a bit of a tear and a strip off him from Sadio Mane for it, which I think, you don't know the character of these players, but I think stuff like that does affect him a little bit because he's a player who relies on confidence. We've seen confidence players down the years. Emileski was a classic one. But I think that second guessed him a little bit. He was looking to pass where maybe he could lay the ball off and or he could shoot himself rather, and I think it just affected him for a couple of games. So he's fine where he is in that, because like I say, sometimes when we make these lists and these judgments, we look at how a player performs over 90 minutes, and it's more about what they do in the moments. And Salah's a perfect example of a player who plays in flashes of brilliance, and the more he does that, the better, the higher he'll be ranked. He's a player who exists for goals and goal records and all of that. So yeah, I think that's fair.
He is an output merchant. So we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 left in 7th place. Gini Wijnaldum.
Yeah.
You thought he was a bit higher, didn't you, compared to Henderson?
Yeah, that's where I have a bit of a bone of contention, is that I think having 1, 2, 3, 5, 4 or 5 places between him and Henderson, I think they're doing similar jobs over the course of the season. I think you'll probably group them together, maybe just one in between them. But I think I haven't seen anything from Wijnaldum that has stood out compared to Henderson. You could say his goal at Sheffield United came at a time we really needed it, but so did Henderson's against Tottenham. So yeah, I don't think there's a massive correlation between them in terms of parallels. So
I'll hold my hands up. I watched the compilation of him against City before I went to bed last night. So I think that might have, because he was absolutely one of those. So maybe it's in the back of my mind. I'm going, well, has he actually been playing really well all season? And I just didn't notice it, and I needed a 2-minute YouTube compilation to tell me.
He's another, like I said, I called Divock a curate's egg of a footballer. He's another one in that I was going into the game on Sunday, and I knew one of the players I could rely on the most was Ronaldo in that game.
Big game genie, as Liverpool.com's Ben Crimmel calls him.
Yeah, well, he is.
He said if you were to have a Earth versus Space Jam style Earth versus the Aliens game, Genie Wijnaldum would be his first name on the team sheet.
Man of the match.
He would be man of the match. He'd protect the Earth.
He would, yeah. He would. We'd have to be at home now.
We would, yeah, we definitely would. Miles away, he's not turning up, is he? He's absolutely
getting
not.
hooked on 60.
Yeah.
It's miles away.
Don't even get him anywhere near Saturn or Jupiter as well. Doesn't even make the squad. So we are to the top 6 now. So we'll sort of go 6th and 5th. Roberto Firmino and Virgil van Dijk.
Firmino, yeah, started the season like a house on fire. And I don't think he's tailed off per se. The amount of output, he gives in terms of what he gives to the team is still there, and it's not always to the naked eye. But yeah, I think that's fair. Virgil, yeah, again, like I said before, he's probably still performing as the best centre-back in Europe.
It's the standards, isn't it? I just think he's been 5% off what he was last season, but he was 105% last season. So has
he been 5% off, or do we just know? Are we less aware of that 5%? Was that 5% a big surprise to us all last season, or was it something that we were noticing more last season? Is it, I can probably agree that he hasn't been to the absolute level, but when all that was new, relatively new last season, and we were going, God, look at this imperious man mountain who is just given this perception that he sorts everything out. I don't think a lot of that's changed. I think there is still. I still think there are forwards of the Ilka Troydini walking on the pitch every week going, I can't be bothered with this fella. I'll just put it in the bank because we've got Brighton at home next week or something like that. And I think that's still happening, but we're just seeing it less and less. I mean, his handling of Nicolas Pepe at Arsenal is still probably one of my seasonal highlights in terms of he just said, I'm not having you, but I'm also not having you, to the point where I'm letting you know that when we play at the Emirates, this is what you're in for. He absolutely dominated him in the last 20 minutes of the game when there was no need to at all. And it was almost as if he was going, I'm Virgil van Dijk. And
I'll see you in January.
This is what I do. Remember this. It was brilliant, and it was very, very underrated and underseen. But I think it's, I'll have it. I'll have it because just purely based on who you've got ahead.
Yeah, I think the top 6, I mean, we'll get to the top 3 in a bit. But I mean, in general, I think 4 to 6 are all interchangeable. So Firmino, Van Dijk, and number 4, I've gone for Andy Robertson. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm terrified that he's injured, and that I'm not too sure the whole hasn't trained for 2.5 weeks thing is completely genuine, because we've seen him on the Melwood images when Liverpool have been training. But just the prospect of not having him in this Liverpool team is, God, it's something you can't comprehend. And James Milner or Joe Gomez might be a perfectly adequate replacement. But at the same time, you want Robertson in that team because of what he gives you, and that's perfectly exampled by what happens on Sunday. He's unbelievable. In transition, he is phenomenal. And I think something that often gets overlooked is how much of an outlet he is to us in the last 20 minutes of games. And I think I was watching it Sunday, and it's no coincidence, I've seen it plenty of times last season. In the last 20 minutes of games, the minute Alisson collects a ball, he goes left. He's his outlet. And the energy that he doesn't even preserve, but he finds in that last quarter of a game, I think it's a real hidden weapon for Liverpool. He almost embodies us as well. I think we talk a lot about this connection between players and fans, and he is just that. And the
working class hero, isn't he?
Yeah, but he almost knows as much as we do what these big games mean. So a slight example is the players do the handshakes on Sunday. They break to the cop, and there's the token gesture of the clapping to the fans and stuff like that. But he just lets out this raucous roar to the cop, a big come on, a big let's have it. And that's Robertson.
Yeah,
that's Andy Robertson. You can't take that away from that. And his his value to the team, and that is unreal.
It's interesting you say about big games as well, because I think before the international break, he would have been a lot further down, but his performances against City, even United, you know, in Genk at home as well, I just feel like it's I just feel like it's his season is getting better and better, and if it's being curtailed by injury, it's a real problem for Liverpool. So we've got the top three now. If you've been paying attention, you'll probably know who those three are, although I do need to add something towards the end. But so number 3 is Sadio Mane.
Yes.
Would have been number 1 around about mid-September, end of September, but for me, he's dropped down to 3rd.
Yeah. I have to be careful because he's my favourite Liverpool player. And the one thing I love about him is his temperament. In that any situation you put him in is ice cold. You know, he's doing forward rolls on the Champions League ball before the game in May, in the final, and June rather. And that's Sadio Mane to a T. He's the player that when the chips are down you can rely on the most. And the other thing I'd say about him is he wants to win the league more than any of us. Like, he wants trophies at Liverpool more than anybody. You know, you see he does the Inside Liverpool video that's come out after the City game. He's given it the big one to a tunnel camera after the game, because he knows what it means, and he's got the talent to back it up. His finishing this season, I think, has gone up a level. I think it's underrated how good he is in the air, and I think when we are looking at the evolution of this Liverpool side, the way in which that front three can interchange, or whether we change his shape, maybe go to a 4-2-3-1 in future, he's going to be pivotal to that, because he has every attribute for every position. Now, I still think he could be the best centre forward at the club, genuinely, and that's not to detriment Roberto Firmino in any way, but I think your best Roberto Firmino replacement is Sadio Mane, and that's because of how good he is and how elite he is now as a world footballer. So I would probably have him 2, but respect the order that you've gone for.
It was really difficult. For me, the number 1 came to mind straight away, but then I sort of went, well, hold on a minute, because you've had Sadio Mane and the other player, where you're sort of saying, well, and this just shows you what a season can be like, because for me, all of these have been number 1 at some point, and all of them have probably been number 3 at some point. Do you see what I mean? It's so interchangeable for me.
Just off topic slightly, can I just say that, and I'll just let the listeners and the watchers know that me and Chris are around the same age bracket, but we're surrounded in an office that is probably 10 years younger than us on average. So Chris, I'm going to say this to you because you will understand it, but this is like doing the Christmas top 40.
Yes,
on the radio.
It is.
It's like you sat there,
it is.
You're recording it on cassette, you know, and you're thinking, who's going to be number 1? They're teasing me here. We're getting down to it. I know who's going to be number 1, but I just want to know, so I'm not going to turn the radio off. Your mum's shouting you for your tea. Mum, wait, the top 40's on.
So what did they do for the Christmas top 40 as well? Did they always, so they get to the top 2, did they announce it, and number 1? No, they don't. They just announce number 2, don't they? And then you know number 1 is.
You know number 1 is,
okay, so.
And then they tell you know number 1 is, but they still don't tell you who it is.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to tell you who number 2 is, and you'll know who number 1 is. So number 2 is, I mean, I wonder if our guys at the studio can do a drum roll for this. I don't know. Number 2 is Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Therefore. Yeah. So Trent is frightening. He's 20. Is he 21? He's 21 now. Good God. I mean, Liverpool. This is the thing that I think is fascinating and perplexing about football at the same time. We go and watch a group of lads, young 20s, every week, every other week, and we put these expectations on them, these life expectations on them, and some of us are almost double their age. And you know, I'm probably showing my age a lot with this video, but at the same time, the amount of responsibility placed on young men on a football pitch and off it, which was exampled recently with Gomez and Sterling, it comes home to roost when you look at what Trent Alexander-Arnold is doing in his career, and he's just barely old enough to have a drink in America. Liverpool have been linked to Jadon Sancho again today, and the first thing that strikes you when I'm writing about Jadon Sancho is he's 19 years of age. Like, he's left Manchester City, he's gone to Germany, he's propelled his career in the Bundesliga, he's playing for England, and he's 19.
I couldn't use a Metro map when I was 19.
He's a teenager. Yeah, good God. What I was doing with my life at 19, I do not know. And it doesn't bear thinking about. But Alexander-Arnold he's remoulded the right-back position, hasn't he, in world football? You know, Dani Alves done it in 2005. He reshaped what we all thought a full-back was and could be. And this lad's doing the same. I think he's technically improved is the thing that I would say this season. I think at times he was often rash with his technique and the way in which he would try and play certain balls or play his way out of certain scenarios or use a different type of technique to execute a set piece. I think what he's doing now in play and from dead ball is terrifying. The switch of play Sunday with his weaker foot to Robertson. I always used to love Gerrard because of how he could hit a ball and how he could technically execute the strike of a football, and I never thought I'd get anything near what Gerrard could do. I thought Gerrard was street ahead of Beckham, and that's not just a Liverpool bias. Beckham was technically brilliant, but Beckham had other attributes what made him a great player. Gerrard technically was the best player I've ever seen, and Alexander-Arnold's doing it in a completely different way, but he is becoming on par with Steven Gerrard in terms of what he can do with a football at his feet.
For me, with Trent, he's just gone up a level that I didn't even foresee. Certainly not now. In terms of, I think he's redefining an entire position in football. I think in 5 years' time, people will play the right back position like Trent Alexander-Arnold has played the right back position. They'll try, definitely. He will launch 1,000 mini Trents across the world where people will say, and it's credit to Klopp and his coaching staff for doing this as well, but our right back can be our most creative outlet. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. I thought he actually had a bit of a rough start of the season because I think he's playing in a slightly different position, and that's why I was sort of wondering if he should be number 3, but then the way he's kicked on, maybe he should have been number 1. Settle for number 2 because I think he had a very rough start of the season because he's obviously changed his role. Well, Klopp's changed his role for him. So he's got to do both. He's got to attack and defend, and the way he manages to do that. You think about somebody like Dani Alves, and he was sort of, for me, again, we'll talk about Trent the way we talk about Dani Alves, because for me, Dani Alves redefined what a right back would do. He was a right winger who got converted, but Dani Alves will play in a Barcelona side who had the ball 80% of the time. Yeah. So he never really had to track back, and they were playing teams in Spain, quite frankly, who were not able to penetrate the way that teams in the Premier League are. Liverpool are averaging around 60%, so they're having the ball less than Barcelona had. Trent's up against players who are far better than what Alves was up against in La Liga, and he's somehow managing to do both. But
also what I would say in terms of his evolution is there's maybe a little bit of a misconception in him, in that people group both Liverpool fullbacks together, whereas I think at times they're playing completely different games. So I talked about Robertson before, and a lot of what he does great in terms of attacking is that marauding into final third spaces, is that
transition,
carrying the ball, that transition. Yeah, I think what you're getting with Trent now is that opposition are looking at him going, well, he's 10 yards inside our half, but he could still hurt us just as much. He doesn't have to get to the byline to destroy you. He doesn't have to get beyond your last defender. In fact, he's arguably weaker from an attacking output point of view when he's in those areas. I think when he's picking the ball up 10-20 yards inside the opposition half is where he's arguably now at his most dangerous. So how do you prepare for that? You can't, because he's going to get the ball in those areas, but his execution and his technique now are leaving opposition with that almost helpless type of Kevin De Bruyne conundrum.
Yeah, what can you do?
What can you do?
Yeah,
he only needs one touch to open his body, and then we're dead. And I think a lot of this is, a lot of what's pivotal to being an elite team is the self-fulfilling prophecies that exist. So if you if you're in opposition to Liverpool and you just believe it's the case because everyone's saying it, then you tell yourself it to the point where in which it happens. And I think a lot of what's going on is that Trent might put a 6 out of 10 ball into the box, but because it's Trent and because opposition are that terrified of it, it looks like a 10 out of 10. And I think a lot of that's true with De Bruyne. De Bruyne just puts the balls in areas that he knows because it's him. His own teammates will gamble on, but secondly, the opposition will be terrified of. So I think that a lot of what he's doing is different to Robertson, but it's equally as impactful. Not even a word, but
well, he's redefining the position. You can redefine the dictionary. Yeah. Go for it. Yeah. And finally, number 1, top of the pops. I don't know. Wet. What else been Christmas number 1?
Oh God, I mean, it's
Girls Allowed.
Yeah, I mean, I always like a classic though, Chris. You know,
Cliff Richard.
Bring Wham back.
Wham.
Mariah.
So Liverpool's Wham. Liverpool's Mariah Carey. All I want
for enough Wham. The last 20 minutes.
All I want for Christmas is Fabinho,
Henrique, Tavares. I've got a confession. So I done an Anfield Rap podcast last year, and after it, I think it was Napoli away, I said that, not in these words, I said that I worried that Fabinho might not be very good. And I still wake up dreading that sentiment every day. And you know what, I'll hold my hands up because I will do, and I'm just a lad who talks and writes about football, but I was wrong to some degree. But the point I'm trying to make is that was still probably less than 12 months ago. Or maybe, it was 12 less. I don't know, but the point I'm trying to make is the development of him in such a short space of time. I think if Manchester City had either Fabinho or Virgil van Dijk, they would have won the quadruple last year, and they would probably be on course to another one. And that's saying something. And I think Liverpool won't be anywhere near where they are now. And I think that the game kind of got away from destroyers, number 4s, rightly so. But I think he's, like we just talked about Trent, I think he's made his own position. He's made his own niche. He's become his own midfielder. And he's only getting better in the Liverpool shirt. I think he's been absolutely superb this season.
I am also going to throw my hands up. I've actually written about it on Liverpool.com. I've been doing this 10 years, and I've been doing it at various guises at the Echo and Reach PLC, whatever you want to call it, Liverpool.com, Blood Red for 5 years now. And you're always trying not make a snap judgment in public, but you can't help it. You're human, you do it in private. So there's definitely WhatsApp messages which hopefully have been deleted to other members of the Liverpool Echo Sports Desk or to friends or whatever, where I basically said, this is what Liverpool have got wrong.
Yeah.
They've absolutely they've absolutely got the wrong midfielder. He'll be at loan on Sampdoria this time next year, which is, I deserve to be sort of putting the stocks on St George's Hall and hit with a massive, I don't know, place of Viva Brazil or something. I don't know, something Brazilian, something feijoada. It's a lovely. You might like that actually.
I might do.
Yeah, it's a bit like a bean stew.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I reckon you like that. You can have meat in it, but you don't have to. So, yeah, feijoada. Google it. But yeah, back to Fabinho. He's incredible, and there's still times when you sort of look at him and, the only reason I sort of maybe went, he's not quite number 1, there's been a couple of goals where they've come from the central areas. Liverpool have conceded from central areas.
Yeah, Kante's the one.
Kante's one that sticks out. There's maybe even Torreira's in the Arsenal game, although it is 3-0 at that point. But it's just a little bit like, well, he could have probably chucked back there. But then you realise how much work he's doing. And okay, Henderson and Wijnaldum are doing a lot of running. And I think that's what's helped Fabinho is that those two number 8s are actually doing a fair bit of his running for him as well. But he's covering a lot of ground. I always think, and other people have said this as well, playing number 6 in a Jurgen Klopp side in the 4-3-3 is the hardest job in football.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And
I think Jordan Henderson was underrated in how good a job he done in 16-17, innit?
And I'm not just saying, Jordan Henderson goes to Jurgen Klopp at some point last season and just goes, can I play as a number 8, please?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it because he's trying to shirk any sort of responsibility, because that's not the type of player he is. I'm not saying it because he's knackered, because that's not the type of player he is. I think it probably, after so many years, just absolutely gets you down. You think, I could just do with I could just do with a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
Because don't get me wrong, Fabinho's having fun, but he's got so much responsibility there. He's covering so much ground. And what he's also doing, and you alluded to this in terms of making the position his own, he's more creative than Henderson.
Yeah.
In terms of key passes per 90, he's more creative than Wijnaldum. He's almost like a, and it's a cliche because I've read it on social media, but he's almost that mix between Alonso and Mascherano.
Yeah, I was actually put him in the Vieira bracket because everyone made an assumption on Vieira when he first came to prominence that because he was tall, he was physical, he played as a number 4, he wore number 4, he was a destroyer, he was a stopper, he was a player who would break up the play and give the ball. Vieira's one of the most technically creative players I have ever seen. He was streets above his contemporaries, and I put Roy Keane in that. Roy Keane was a fantastic player, and they had some ding-dongs down the years, but he'd never got near Vieira in terms of ability, and I think where Fabinho can still develop, and where Liverpool have done a lot of work with him, is physically and his physicality. And I remember when he first signed, and there was all the stuff about how Liverpool had put him on a specific programme to get his core strength up and to manage him to a point where, he gets through 90 minutes in the Premier League at the pace that's required. If he can go up another level physically, because I think that's where, when you talk about the goals we've conceded that might have come from him, I think there has been a case where he's tailed off a bit physically in games in the last quarter, and that's completely understandable, like you say, given how much we have to put on the number 6 to do in a game. But I think if he can go up that notch and just add that little bit more strength and conditioning and physical prowess to his game, then God, I think you're talking about a player of the year, a PFA player of the year in less than 2 years' time, and hopefully, a Premier League winner.
Fingers crossed. So that was our list. I have realised one thing.
Joe Gomez.
I
knew it. As soon as I first said his name, I was like, he's not on that list.
I got onto it. I got onto Joe Gomez way earlier, and then you mentioned his name and I went, oh, right, okay. So no, Joe Gomez isn't first for absolutely burning the head off Raheem Sterling. Although I suppose that was a nice little sort of, people were probably sitting there going, they haven't got Gomez first here, have they? Like, someone's going, how's Gomez in the top 4?
Joe Gomez Christmas number 1.
Where are we putting Gomez?
I genuinely
MILNER
put him,
and LALLANA.
I genuinely put him just above Shaqiri, who's bottom. He struggled, Joe Gomez, this season. He struggled particularly at centre half. I have a thing that I think Jurgen Klopp goes to certain players about certain things in the squad, and I think Virgil van Dijk is one of those players, and I think it's very telling that after the Salzburg 4-3 at home, Joe Gomez plays in that game at centre-back with Virgil van Dijk in a game where Virgil looks flustered and anxious, to say the least, about the players around him. And the next game day on Lovren's in the side. And they're very good friends, Gomez and Van Dijk, but I just wonder whether Van Dijk felt like he was having to carry a lot of water, and a lot of Joe Gomez's water. Whether that means that there's opportunities for him at right back as the season goes on, I don't know. Given, we need to rotate Trent or we need to rotate Robbo, but I would say that at centre back, I think he's took a step backwards. What do you think? Yeah,
I would go along with that. I think it's unfortunate. I think he's still really sorting things out with his injuries, and it's pretty harsh.
He's another player with time on his side.
Yeah,
let's not forget. Massively, he's 22.
Yeah,
so got tons and tons and tons of time to re-establish himself. But I think
he's just finding his feet, isn't he?
Has a bit of a dip, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Dan. We hope you went all the way through that. We do apologise to Joe Gomez for making him wait till the end and then dropping him right to second last. But apart from that, Fabinho 1, Trent 2, Mane 3. Go back through it. Let us know your thoughts. Make sure you subscribe to the Blood Red YouTube channel. Make sure you download the podcast, however you consume your podcasts. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. Maybe we'll do this again soon. Enjoy the international break.